Here's your wrestling news for May 17th, 2022, and your headlines for today include Sasha Banks and Naomi walk out of WWE Raw. What happened during this week's broadcast? Who approved the bizarre new rule about Money in the Bank winners? Eric Bischoff continues his war of words with CM Punk with scathing new accusation. Japanese sensation rumored to make AEW return on this week's Dynamite. Cody Rhodes names his pick for the best wrestler in the world today. Nash Carter issues first statement since being released from WWE over Hitler picture. WWE Premium Live Event nominated for prestigious award, and more. We are kicking off today with Monday Night Raw, as the original main event of the show was meant to be a six-pack challenge to determine the Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair's next challenger. The match was meant to see Asuka, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Naomi, Doudrop, and Nikki ASH face off, but that's not what fans saw. In a backstage segment, Becky Lynch told Adam Pearce that she saw the tag team champions walk out, and Pearce rebooked the match as a singles bout between Big Time Bex and Asuka. It turns out that this change wasn't an original part of the story, as Banks and Naomi legitimately walked out of the venue and did not return. PW Insider reports that Banks had a meeting with Vince McMahon to discuss a change in her creative and took issue with some of the planned creative for the six-pack challenge. When McMahon didn't agree, she refused to back down and left the taping. Naomi walked out in solidarity with her tag team partner, leaving WWE no choice but to change the planned six-pack challenge. In a statement issued to Wrestling Inc., WWE detailed the situation, saying, "When Sasha Banks and Naomi arrived at the arena this afternoon, they were informed of their participation in the main event of tonight's Monday Night Raw. During the broadcast, they walked into WWE Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis' office with their suitcases in hand, placed their tag team championship belts on his desk, and walked out. They claimed they weren't respected enough as tag team champions, and even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, they claimed that they were uncomfortable in the ring with two of their opponents, even though they'd had matches with those two individuals in the past with no consequence." Monday Night Raw is a scripted live TV show whose characters are expected to perform the requirements of their contract. We regret we were unable to deliver as advertised tonight's main event. WWE would have obviously preferred to save Asuka vs. Becky Lynch for a premium live event, but instead, the company was forced to put it on TV with next to no build. It is odd that WWE didn't just replace Banks and Naomi with other superstars such as Carmella and Queen Zelina, and if they wanted Lynch vs. Asuka for a bigger date, then some kind of controversial finish could have made the title match a triple threat, pitting Belair against both Becky and the Empress. Nothing is known about what caused Banks to react the way she did, but one theory is that the finish of the match would have seen her or Naomi win, but by pinning the other. WWE wanting Lynch vs. Asuka at Hell in a Cell means they wouldn't have been booked to win the six-pack challenge, and with Doudrop and Nikki ASH having little momentum as of late, it's likely that either Banks or Naomi were booked to win. This theory makes sense, as Banks has been incredibly protective of the women's tag division and wouldn't be happy with the idea of the champs turning on each other to score a Raw Women's title opportunity, which they would almost certainly lose. The problem is that WWE's higher-ups, especially McMahon, have shown little interest in the women's tag team division, and that's been the case since almost immediately after the titles were introduced in 2019. Interestingly, it was after losing the women's tag team titles in 2019 that Banks requested her release from WWE, a sign of how important she treats the division, but we'll have to wait and see what's in store for her and Naomi, both on and off screen. During WrestleMania Backlash, a commercial aired for Money in the Bank, which said that the two ladder match winners will earn the chance to headline WrestleMania. This line has confused fans and those in the company alike, as the Royal Rumble is traditionally the only way to guarantee a Mania main event, but this bizarre statement is coming from the boss himself. Wrestling Inc. have learned that it was Vince McMahon who came up with the line and insisted it be used in the commercial that features Cody Rhodes. A source in WWE explained that despite the wording, the plan is for the winners to get the traditional guaranteed title match prize, with WrestleMania being merely an example of one date the winners could choose. So far, only one person has cashed in at WrestleMania, and that was Seth Rollins in 2015. And if you've been confused by WWE's bizarre explanation of the Money in the Bank prize this year, now you know who to blame. Last week, CM Punk and Eric Bischoff started a war of words over comments made by the WCW alum. When Bischoff said that AEW caters to too small a market and needs to grow, Punk fired back, saying that fans shouldn't listen to bad take carnies who die in the dark with their ego podcasts. In his response to Punk, Bischoff used a quote in which the former WWE champion said that what he, Bryan Danielson, and Adam Cole are doing in AEW is bigger than Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash in WCW, and asked, "How's that working out?" On his 83 Weeks podcast this week, Bischoff didn't back down, addressing the quote and his use of it, and made a pretty bold claim against Punk. "I took his quote and posted it and said, 'How's that working out?' Which it isn't, obviously. In terms of a return on investment, this guy has to be the biggest financial flop in the history of wrestling." Bischoff said that he is happy to be proven wrong, but without data such as merchandise revenue, he can only go off of viewership, which is returned to where it was before Punk arrived. Punk has a busy couple of weeks ahead of him as he'll challenge for the AEW World title at Double or Nothing, his first World Championship match in 9 years, but it's one that Eric Bischoff doesn't want to see. More from AEW now, as this week's Dynamite will see Britt Baker compete in the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament against a mystery opponent. Tony Khan has given no clue as to who this Joker will be, but it could be someone fans haven't seen in quite some time. On Twitter, Maki Ito announced that her next match will be in the United States, fueling speculation among fans that she'll be stepping in the ring with the former Women's World Champion. During her brief run in AEW last year, Ito teamed with Baker in a match against Riho and Thunder Rosa at the Revolution pay-per-view and competed on Dynamite and Dark Elevation, earning quite the fan base in the process. Ito's last match in AEW was on the very first Dark Elevation in March 2021, where she lost to Riho, but now the Japanese wrestler may be mere days away from her return to the All Elite promotion. Back to WWE now, as Cody Rhodes has been one of the company's biggest names since his return at WrestleMania 38 following 3 years of working for AEW. Rhodes has had major success in both companies, as well as runs in Impact, the NWA, and Ring of Honor, and the American Nightmare certainly thinks highly of himself. In a recent interview with Sports Illustrated, Rhodes was asked about who's the best in the industry today and had only one answer. "I think I'm the best wrestler in the world, and I think it's by a large margin. That upsets a lot of people, but I don't mean to draw ire. This is all I do. I'm not in charge. I'm here to hone my craft, build my body, and win matches. Every week, I have to be better. That's the ultimate clarity for me." Rhodes is expected to do big things in WWE, and many expect the American Nightmare to be the one who finally dethrones Roman Reigns, and a win over the head of the table and capturing the undisputed WWE Universal Championship would certainly give credence to Cody's bold claims. One name fans certainly won't see in WWE is Nash Carter, who was released following accusations of misconduct by his wife Kimber Lee. While WWE reportedly did not find Lee's claims to be credible, the company chose to release Nash after an image was shared by Lee depicting Carter impersonating Nazi leader Adolf Hitler. Now, the former NXT Tag Team Champion has issued his first statement on the infamous image since being released, saying that the picture was taken in 2015, at a time where he was uneducated on the topic and didn't understand the magnitude of how hurtful he was being. Carter added that in 2020, when someone tried to extort him after finding the photo and threatening to post it on social media, he sent the image to his wife to ask for help, having no idea that she would keep it. Regardless, Carter said there is no excuse for the photo and encouraged those in the Orlando area to visit the Holocaust Memorial Resource and Education Center of Florida, calling it an incredibly eye-opening experience for him. Carter, whose real name is Zachary Green, will likely never wrestle for WWE again, and this incident will surely have an impact on his wrestling future. But the former NXT Tag Team Champion is hoping to move on from this controversy and is immensely sorry for what transpired. And we're ending today with WWE, who have been nominated for a 2022 Sports Business Journal Award. Celebrating the achievements of sporting events, it's been confirmed that SummerSlam 2021 has been nominated, as the show saw the returns of Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar, in addition to the long-awaited match between the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns and John Cena. Last year's SummerSlam will face some stiff competition, including Super Bowl 56, the 2021 PGA Championship, and the 2022 Discover NHL Winter Classic, to name just a few. SummerSlam 2021 filled the giant Allegiant Stadium, which will host this year's Money in the Bank, and we'll have to see if the August 2021 event can take home the prize. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.